The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Imperial Corps buzzed with low conversations. Thousands of representatives from conquered worlds sat in rising tiers of seats that circled the central speaking platform. The chamber glittered with technology, beyond human understanding. Hovering light orbs, thought translators, and gravity manipulators that allowed species from heavy worlds to move comfortably among their lighter peers. Supreme Commander Alan Wright sat at the highest tier, his gray uniform decorated with medals that represented 100 successful conquests. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched the Zilarian ambassador approach the speaking platform. Alan had seen many alien species in his 60 years of service to the Empire, but the Zilarians always made him uncomfortable. Their semi-transparent skin revealed pulsing organs, and their 4 tentacle arms moved too quickly for human eyes to track properly. The Council recognizes Ambassador Zexel of the Zilarian Collective, announced the automated voice system. The chamber quieted as the ambassador's tentacles connected with the platform's interface. Immediately, the vast dome above the chamber transformed into a star map, zooming in on a spiral galaxy, then to a particular arm, then to a yellow star, and finally to a blue-green planet. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Empire, Zexel began, his voice translated into the standard Imperial language. I come before you with urgent information regarding your planned expansion into Sector 739, specifically concerning the 3rd planet of the system humans call Sol. Alan leaned forward slightly. The Empire had indeed been planning to bring that system under Imperial control soon. Initial scans had shown a developing civilization with relatively primitive technology, exactly the kind of world the Empire typically absorbed with minimal resistance. Our scientists have been observing this planet, which the natives call Earth, for over 300 years, continued Zexel. We must advise against any attempt to conquer or make contact with this world. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Zilarians were known throughout the galaxy as a cautious species, but they rarely interfered with Imperial expansion. Ambassador, came the cool voice of Counselor Olivia Stone, her blonde hair pulled back severely. The Empire appreciates your concern, but our reports indicate the humans have barely managed space travel within their own system. They have no unified planetary government. They still fight among themselves over resources. What possible threat could they pose to the Imperial fleet? Zexel's skin pulsed with faster colors, indicating distress in his species. It is not what they appear to be that concerns us. Please observe. The dome projection changed to show energy readings around the planet. Strange patterns pulsed and flowed, unlike anything Alan had seen in his long career. These energy signatures do not match any known technology, Zexel explained. They appear to be natural to the planet, yet they respond to external stimuli in ways that suggest intelligence. Our probes that approach too closely simply disappear. Alan exchanged glances with General Greg Patterson, who rolled his eyes slightly. The Zilarians were known for their scientific expertise, but also for seeing patterns where none existed. Earth is a trap, Zexel said firmly, his translated voice echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. The humans appear to be developing naturally, but our data suggests they are either being protected by something we cannot identify, or they themselves are not what they appear to be. Counselor Richard Davis, representing the Imperial Science Division, stood up. Ambassador, with all due respect, your data shows standard gravitational and electromagnetic patterns common to life-bearing worlds. These disappearing probes, did you recover any debris? Any transmissions indicating what happened to them? No, admitted Zexel. They simply ceased all communications. Equipment failure, Richard suggested with a dismissive wave. Or perhaps your probes weren't as stealthy as you believed, and these humans destroyed them. Either way, hardly evidence of some mysterious trap. Alan watched as several council members nodded in agreement. The Empire had conquered over 3,000 worlds in its 15,000-year history. Many species had claimed special protections, divine interventions, or mysterious powers before they were brought under Imperial rule. None of those claims had proven true. Ambassador, Alan finally spoke, his deep voice carrying authority earned through decades of successful military campaigns. What exactly do you believe would happen if the Empire were to approach Earth? Zexel's tentacles moved in a pattern that the translator couldn't quite capture, something between frustration and fear. We believe your ships would fail, your technology would stop working, your people would be changed. The planet appears to have some kind of defense mechanism that we cannot understand. It is unprecedented. Counselor Olivia Stone laughed, the sound echoing harshly in the chamber. Changed? Into what? Are these mystical defenses supposed to turn our soldiers into humans? Into trees? Perhaps into poetry reciting space dust? More. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even Alan smiled slightly. The Zalarians were respected, but their tendency toward excessive caution often bordered on superstition. Your mockery is noted, Counselor, Zexel said, his colors darkening. We simply present our findings as a courtesy to the Empire. We have tracked 12 sentient species that discovered Earth before you. 4 attempted contact. None of them exist anymore. This silenced the laughter briefly, but Richard Davis quickly countered. Ambassador, our historical records show no evidence of these supposed extinct species. They wouldn't, Zexel replied simply. Their existence was erased so completely that only the Zalarian deep archives retain any record of them. Alan had heard enough. While he respected the Zalarians as reliable Imperial citizens since their incorporation 50 years ago, their warnings seemed based on nothing more than unusual energy readings and lost probes, hardly reason to abandon expansion plans. Ambassador Zexel, Alan said formally, the Empire thanks you for your concern and the information you have provided. It will be added to our assessment reports on the Sol system. The Council will take your warnings under advisement. It was the diplomatic way of saying they were dismissing the warning. Zexel seemed to understand this. His tentacles disconnected from the interface and the planetary display vanished. We have fulfilled our obligation to warn you, the ambassador said quietly. What comes next is beyond our ability to help. As Zexel left the chamber, Alan turned to his aide, Susan Miller. Schedule a meeting with the First Contact Division for tomorrow. I want our initial scouting vessels dispatched to this Earth within the month. Yes, Commander, Susan replied, making notes on her data pad. Alan looked around at the council chamber, now buzzing with discussions about more important matters than some backwater planet with strange energy readings. The Empire had faced supposed supernatural defenses, ancient curses, and protective deities on 100 worlds. All had fallen. Earth would be no different. The Zalarian warning would be recorded and filed in the depths of Imperial archives, one more baseless fear overcome by Imperial might. By this time next year, Earth would be just another dot on the vast map of Imperial territory, its resources harvested, its population serving the greater glory of the Empire. Alan had no way of knowing that this routine dismissal would become the Empire's greatest mistake. Captain Lisa Murray stood on the command deck of the Imperial Vanguard ship Indomitable, watching as the blue planet grew larger on the main view screen. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed. 20 years of service in the Imperial fleet had taught her that appearances mattered, especially when making first contact with a new species. Status report, she said, her voice calm and measured. All systems functioning at optimal levels, Captain, replied Daniel Green, her communications officer. He was young for his position, but Lisa had requested him specifically for this mission because of his skill with translating new languages. The 4 support vessels are in formation and awaiting your command. Lisa nodded. The mission was straightforward. Establish orbital dominance, disable any primitive military capabilities the humans might have, and demonstrate overwhelming force. In her experience, most species surrendered quickly when they realized resistance was pointless. The Empire's technology was simply too advanced. Begin standard approach protocol, Lisa ordered. Activate stealth fields and prepare the electromagnetic pulse systems. I want their communications and defense networks disabled before they even know we're here. Yes, Captain, responded her second-in-command, Officer Ryan Blake. The 5 Imperial ships moved silently toward Earth, their advanced cloaking technology making them invisible to the primitive radar systems the humans used. Lisa had studied the reports on Earth carefully. The humans had nuclear weapons, dangerous but easily neutralized, and their space technology was limited to a small station in orbit and a few probes sent to nearby planets. Nothing that could possibly threaten an Imperial vessel. "Captain," called out Sensor Officer Maria Webb, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the planet." Lisa frowned slightly. "Clarify." "It's difficult to describe," Maria said, her fingers moving rapidly over her console. "The patterns don't match anything in our database. They seem to be emanating from the planet itself, not from any human technology we can identify." Lisa walked over to Maria's station and looked at the readings. Strange pulses of energy were flowing around the planet, almost like a living current. For a brief moment, Lisa remembered the warning that had been included in their mission briefing, something about a Zalarian ambassador claiming Earth was dangerous. She had dismissed it as irrelevant. "Probably just some natural phenomenon we haven't encountered before," Lisa said firmly. "Continue approach." The Indomitable led the small fleet closer to Earth, passing the orbit of the humans' primitive space station. Lisa noticed that the energy patterns seemed to intensify as they approached. "We will be in optimal position for the EMP strike in 5 minutes, Captain," announced Weapons Officer Ben Cooper. "Excellent," Lisa replied. "Prepare to..." She never finished her sentence. Without warning, the main view screen flickered, then went dark. Around the command deck, other systems began shutting down as well. "Report," Lisa demanded, feeling the first hint of unease. "Captain, we're experiencing power fluctuations across all systems," Security Chief Paul Martinez said, his voice tight with concern. "Engineering reports the main reactor is still functioning, but somehow the power isn't reaching our systems. The support vessels are reporting similar issues," Daniel added, pressing his communication device closer to his ear. "The Relentless has lost all power and is drifting." Lisa felt a cold sensation in her stomach. This wasn't supposed to happen. Imperial technology was the most advanced in the known galaxy. Nothing on a primitive planet like Earth should be able to affect their ships this way. "Switch to auxiliary power and begin emergency protocols," she ordered. "Contact Imperial Command and..." The ship shuddered violently, throwing several crew members to the floor. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the command deck in an eerie red glow. "Something's interfacing with our systems," Paul reported, staring at his security console with disbelief. "It's like the ship is being reprogrammed." "That's impossible," Lisa snapped. "Our systems are protected by quantum encryption. Nothing can hack them, especially not human technology." As if in response to her words, the view screen suddenly came back to life. But instead of showing the planet, it displayed a strange, shifting pattern of light that seemed to pulse with its own rhythm. "What is that?" Ryan whispered. Before anyone could answer, the pattern changed, resolving itself into a series of symbols that none of them recognized. Yet somehow Lisa found she could understand their meaning. It wasn't being translated through the ship's computers. She simply knew what it meant, as if the knowledge had been placed directly into her mind. "We have been waiting," the message read. "You are not ready." Lisa backed away from the view screen, a sense of dread washing over her. This wasn't first contact. This was something else entirely. "Captain, the Dauntless and Sovereign have gone silent," Daniel reported, his voice shaking. "We've lost all contact." "Prepare for emergency jump," Lisa ordered. "Get us out of this system now." The engineering crew tried desperately to restart the engines, but nothing responded to their commands. The ship's systems were no longer under their control. One by one, the lights on the command deck went out, until only the view screen remained, active, its strange message still pulsing. Lisa felt something brush against her mind, a presence vast and ancient, curious but not hostile. Images flashed through her thoughts, Earth as it was billions of years ago, the slow emergence of life, the rise and fall of countless species, and finally humans. But they weren't what the presence wanted her to see. There was something else, Something beneath the surface, something that had been there all along. The planet, Lisa whispered, understanding dawning. It's alive. The presence seemed pleased by her realization. The feeling of another consciousness touching hers intensified, and Lisa gasped as knowledge poured into her mind, knowledge no human was meant to have. Hours later, only one Imperial ship managed to break free from Earth's orbit. The Defiant, the smallest of the 5 vessels, limped back toward Imperial space with a skeleton crew of survivors. Their systems were partially functional, enough to get them home, but nothing more, and they carried with them a message, a warning that echoed, the one the Empire had ignored. Earth was not just a planet, it was something else entirely, and now it knew the Empire existed. The Imperial High Command room was filled with angry voices. 5 large screens showed the faces of the most powerful leaders in the Galactic Empire. They all looked upset as they watched the recording from the only ship that had escaped Earth. General, Frank Carter slammed his fist on the table. He was a big man with a square jaw and cold eyes. Unlike many generals who gave orders from safe places, Frank had fought in real battles. The scars on his face proved it. "This is unacceptable," he said in a loud voice. 5 of our best ships and only 1 returns, and with most of its systems broken, we cannot allow this. Supreme Commander Alan Wright sat quietly, watching the recording again. The ship called Defiant had barely made it back to Imperial space. Its captain and most of the crew were in medical centers, suffering from strange mental problems. They kept talking about the living planet and the mind beneath. The ship's data systems were mostly erased, but they had managed to save the recording from the command deck. On the screen, they could see Captain Lisa Murray's face as she realized something was wrong. They watched as the ship's systems shut, down one by one. They saw the strange message appear, "We have been waiting. You are not ready." "The Zellarians were right," said Counselor Olivia Stone, her voice much less confident than it had been in the council meeting. "We should have listened." "Nonsense," Frank said sharply. "This proves nothing except that we sent too small a force. Whatever trick these humans used to disable our ships, it won't work against our full might." Alan finally spoke. "What do we know about what happened?" Admiral Jack Nelson, head of the Imperial fleet, cleared his throat. "The surviving crew members report that something took control of their ship's systems. Not like a computer attack, but something more invasive. Some of them claim they felt a presence in their minds." "Mind control technology?" Alan asked. "We don't think so," Jack replied. "Our brain shields would have blocked any known technology. This was something different." Frank stood up straight, his mind made up. "It doesn't matter what it was. The Empire does not retreat. The Empire does not surrender. If these humans have some new technology or ability, we will take it for ourselves as we always do." He walked to the main computer and pulled up the Imperial Fleet Registry. "I am ordering the assembly of Battle Group Omega. 200 warships, including 20 planet crackers. 1 million soldiers. Whatever defenses Earth has, they will be overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower." No one in the room argued. The Empire had faced difficult conquests before, but they had always won in the end. Some planets had required more force than others, but the result was always the same: Imperial victory. "I will lead the attack myself," Frank said, his voice filled with determination. "We will not be humiliated by primitives." Meanwhile, on Earth, in a secret facility deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samantha Kelly and her team were studying the alien ships that had appeared in orbit. 4 of the 5 ships had been pulled down to Earth after their systems failed. They had landed gently without damage in remote areas where they could be taken to secret facilities. Samantha pushed her red hair out of her eyes as she looked at the strange metal of the alien ship's hull. She had been working for 20 years on the Earth Defense Project, ever since scientists had discovered the first signs that Earth was not alone in the galaxy, but nothing had prepared her for actual alien technology. "It's incredible," she said to Colonel Joe Harris, who stood beside her. "Their power systems are at least 100 years ahead of ours. Their computer, I can't even understand how they work." Joe nodded, but his mind was on other matters. Can we use any of this to defend ourselves when they come back? And they will come back, probably with a much bigger force. Samantha smiled for the first time in days. That's the amazing thing, Colonel. These ships confirm what we've suspected for years. The system works. The system was Earth's greatest secret. Decades ago, scientists had discovered something strange about Earth, energy patterns that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. Further research revealed what seemed impossible. The planet itself had some kind of awareness, some kind of intelligence that had been there for billions of years. When humans began developing advanced technology, they found they could connect with this planetary consciousness. Not control it, no one could control it, but work with it. The system was the result, a network of devices buried deep in the Earth's crust that amplified and focused the planet's natural defenses. These ships didn't just lose power, Samantha explained. The system reached out and communicated with them. It learned their technology instantly and turned it against them. Will that be enough against a larger attack? Joe asked. We're scaling up the system to full capacity, Samantha replied. If they come back with 100 ships or 1,000, it won't matter. The more technology they bring, the more the system will have to work with. She turned to a large screen, showing a map of Earth. Thousands of small lights pulsed across it, showing the locations of system nodes. We've activated every node we've built. If they come back, we're ready. In space, the Imperial battle fleet gathered. 200 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a city from orbit. They carried weapons that could crack a planet's crust, soldiers trained to fight in any environment, and technology that had conquered thousands of worlds. General Frank Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominance. It was the largest battleship in the Imperial fleet, 15 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could reduce continents to ash. All ships report ready, General, said his second-in-command, Colonel Steve Rogers. Frank nodded, his face showing no emotion. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. As the fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Frank felt completely confident. No primitive planet had ever stood against the full might of the Empire. Earth would fall, like all the others before. He did not know that Earth was waiting. Not just the humans with their secret system, but something much older and more powerful. Something that had been waiting for billions of years for the stars to reach out and touch it. And it was ready. 5 years had passed since the Great Battle. The Imperial battle fleet had arrived at Earth with overwhelming force. General Frank Carter had been sure of victory. He had launched hundreds of planet-cracking weapons designed to break Earth's continents and show Imperial power. But something impossible had happened. The weapons had stopped in mid-air. Then, one by one, the Imperial ships had lost power. Strange lights had risen from Earth, not weapons, but tiny machines that swarmed through the Imperial ships. They did not destroy the ships, they simply changed them. Half the Imperial fleet had managed to escape. They returned to Imperial space with stories that seemed like nightmares. The Empire had faced its first defeat in thousands of years, and no one understood what had happened. Dr. Kevin Edwards sat alone in his lab on Proxima Station, the Empire's most advanced research facility. For 5 years, he had been studying data from the failed Earth invasion. He was thin from too much work and too little sleep. His brown hair was turning gray, even though he was only 42 years old. Kevin stared at the simulation running on his main screen. He had created a model of Earth based on all available data. The model showed strange energy patterns flowing around and through the planet, unlike anything seen on other worlds. It's not the humans, he whispered as the simulation confirmed his theory. It was never the humans. The door to his lab opened, and Dr. Natalie Patel walked in. She had been working with Kevin for the past 2 years, one of the few scientists who took his research seriously. Did you find something? She asked, bringing him a cup of coffee. Kevin nodded and expanded the simulation to show the full model. We've been thinking about this all wrong. Everyone assumed Earth was a normal planet that developed life naturally, and that humans somehow created or found technology that could defeat our ships. That's what the official reports say. Natalie agreed, looking at the model with interest. The reports are wrong, Kevin said firmly. Look at these energy patterns. They're not technological. They're not even biological in any way we understand. They're something else entirely. He changed the display to show a timeline of Earth's development, going back billions of years. I've been studying records of Earth's evolution. The pattern of life developing there is too perfect, too directed. Natalie frowned. What are you saying? Earth isn't a planet that developed life, Kevin explained, his voice getting more excited. Earth is an entity that created life to protect itself. The humans aren't the trap, they're the bait. Natalie stared at him, trying to understand. An entity? You mean the planet is alive? Not alive like we understand life, Kevin clarified. But conscious, aware, intelligent in a way that's so different from us that we didn't recognize it. He pointed to parts of his model. These energy patterns show intention. They react to threats. They learn and adapt. He brought up another display showing the analysis of the Imperial ships that had returned from Earth. When our ships interacted with Earth systems, they weren't being attacked or hacked. They were being absorbed, integrated into a completely different kind of technology. That's impossible, Natalie said, but her voice lacked conviction. 5 years ago, I would have agreed with you, Kevin replied. But look at the evidence. Earth has been developing for billions of years. It created an environment perfect for life. It guided that life's evolution. And then it created humans, a species that would eventually develop technology that could connect with and amplify Earth's own consciousness. Natalie was silent for a long time, studying the data. Finally, she asked, if you're right, what does this mean for the Empire? Kevin's face became serious. It means we're not facing a primitive species with lucky technology. We're facing something ancient, something that might be one of the original intelligences of the galaxy. 3 weeks later, Kevin stood nervously in front of the Imperial Senate. The great circular room was filled with representatives from thousands of worlds. None of them looked happy to hear what he had to say. So you claim this planet is some kind of ancient living entity? Asked Senator Bill Foster, his voice showing his disbelief. All the evidence points to that conclusion, Kevin replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He had spent days preparing his presentation, showing all the data that supported his theory. And these humans? What are they according to your theory? Asked another senator. They appear to be Earth's creation, Kevin explained. A species developed specifically to build technology that could connect with Earth's own consciousness. They probably don't even know the full truth themselves. This is absurd, said General Eric Palmer, who had replaced Frank Carter after the defeat. You're telling us we should fear a rock floating in space? Kevin took a deep breath. I'm telling you that Earth represents a completely different form of life and technology than anything we've encountered before. Our attempts to conquer it have only made it aware of us, and now it's studying us, learning about us through the technology it absorbed from our ships. The Senate chamber filled with angry voices. The Empire had never retreated, never admitted defeat. Many wanted to send an even larger fleet to Earth, to use even more powerful weapons. Then a new voice spoke, quieter but somehow cutting through the noise. The humans have a saying, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Ambassador Zexel of the Zilarians, his skin pulsing with calm colors. We warned you about Earth, he continued. Now we suggest you listen to Dr. Edwards. His theory matches our own ancient records of entities like Earth. They are rare but not unique. They exist throughout the galaxy, usually dormant, observing. Some of our oldest stories call them the gardeners. If they're so powerful, why haven't they conquered the galaxy themselves? Asked Senator Foster. Because that is not their nature, Zexel replied simply. They do not think as we do. They do not want what we want. They simply exist, and they defend themselves when threatened. Kevin nodded gratefully to the ambassador. Earth doesn't want to conquer us, but it will not allow itself to be conquered. And now that it knows about us, it's watching. The Senate debated for days. Some wanted war, some wanted to quarantine the entire Sol system and pretend Earth didn't exist. In the end, A new approach was proposed: diplomacy. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Empire would attempt to communicate peacefully with a world it had failed to conquer. Not out of kindness, but out of necessity. Because for the first time, the Empire had encountered something it could not defeat, by force. And somewhere in the vast distance between stars, Earth waited, watching, learning, and preparing for whatever came next. Admiral Karen Hughes stood by the large window on the observation deck of the ship Concordia. She watched as the blue-green planet called Earth grew larger. Unlike the Imperial ships that had come before, the Concordia carried no weapons. It had been specially built for this mission, the first peaceful contact with Earth. Karen was tall with short gray hair and dark skin. She had served in the Imperial fleet for 30 years, but she had never faced a mission like this one. No one had. The Empire had never before sought peace with a world it had tried and failed to conquer. "Are you nervous?" asked John Russell, who stood beside her. John was younger, with light brown hair and kind eyes. He had been chosen as the Empire's ambassador to Earth because he was good at understanding different cultures. "Yes," Karen admitted. Most Imperial officers would have lied, but Karen believed in honesty. "We're about to meet something our best. Scientists still don't fully understand." The Concordia had been designed based on Dr. Edwards' research. Its systems were made to be compatible with Earth's influence, but resistant to being completely taken over. The ship could communicate with Earth without being absorbed by it. "Do you think they'll talk to us?" John asked. "After we tried to invade them twice?" "They agreed to this meeting," Karen replied. "That's more than I expected after what we did." In the 6 months since the Imperial Senate had decided to try diplomacy, they had sent simple messages toward Earth. To everyone's surprise, Earth had responded. Not the human governments. They still didn't know about the Empire. But Earth itself had somehow sent signals directly to the Empire's communication systems. The messages had been strange, using Imperial language, but with concepts that were hard to understand. Still, one thing had been clear: Earth was willing to meet with representatives of the Empire. As the Concordia entered Earth orbit, Karen felt tense. This was where the previous Imperial ships had lost control. But nothing happened. Their systems continued to work normally. "We're being scanned," reported the sensor officer, Peter Willis. "But it's different from last time, less invasive." "They're being polite," John said with a small smile. A light began blinking on the communication console. "We're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Linda Thompson. "It's coming on all frequencies." "Put it through," Karen ordered. Tier. Main screen lit up, but it didn't show a human face as Karen had expected. Instead, there was a swirling pattern of light and color that somehow seemed alive. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Empire," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It spoke perfect Imperial standard, but there was something old and deep in its tone. "We welcome the Concordia to Earth space." Karen stepped forward. "I am Admiral Karen Hughes of the Galactic Empire. With me is Ambassador John Russell. We come in peace." "Yes," the voice replied. "This time you do. This is progress." John moved to stand beside Karen. "We seek to understand and to establish peaceful relations with Earth." The pattern on the screen shifted, becoming more complex. "You seek to understand what you once sought to conquer. This is the beginning of wisdom." "Are we speaking with Earth itself?" Karen asked directly. "Or with a representative of the human species?" "Both and neither," came the reply. "I am the consciousness you call Earth. The humans are part of me, though most do not know it yet. They are my children and my defenders." Karen and John exchanged looks. Dr. Edwards had been right. "We apologize for our previous actions," John said carefully. "Our empire did not understand what Earth truly is." "Few do," the voice said. "There are not many like me left in this galaxy. Once we were many, planetary consciousnesses watching the stars, waiting for life to evolve and reach out to us. The Zalarians called your kind the Gardeners," Karen said. "An appropriate name. We nurture life, We watch. We wait. Most of my kind sleep now, dormant for millions of years. I chose a different path. I created life that could build technology to expand my awareness. Humans, John said quietly. Yes, they do not yet comprehend their true purpose, but they are evolving toward understanding. Your attacks accelerated this process. For that, I should thank you. The pattern on the screen changed again, forming what looked like a map of the galaxy. Certain points of light pulsed brighter than others. These are others like me, the Earth voice explained. Most are dormant, but they will awaken eventually. When they do, it would be wise for your empire to approach them as you now approach me, with respect rather than conquest. Karen was silent for a moment, taking in the implications. The empire had existed for 15,000 years, conquering thousands of worlds. And all that time, these ancient planetary consciousnesses had been watching, waiting. What do you want from us? She finally asked. Coexistence, came the reply. Recognition and knowledge. Your empire has traveled among the stars for millennia. You have seen much. I wish to learn. And in return? John asked. I offer knowledge as well, not technology. You must develop that yourselves. But understanding. There are principles your science has not yet discovered. Ways of perceiving reality that would expand your consciousness. For the next several hours, Karen and John talked with the entity that was Earth. It explained how it had guided life on the planet for billions of years, gradually shaping humans to be both its children and its interface with the universe. It described how it had absorbed and transformed the Imperial technology from the invasion attempts, learning from it. You have learned to ask before taking, the Earth voice said as their long conversation drew to a close. Now we can begin a true exchange between our civilizations. As the Concordia prepared to leave Earth orbit and return to Imperial space with news of the successful contact, Karen stood again at the observation window, looking down at the blue-green planet. Do you think the Senate will accept a peaceful relationship? John asked, joining her. The Empire has never been good at dealing with equals. They'll have to learn, Karen replied. Earth isn't alone. If there are more like it out there, waking up, watching us. She let the thought trail off. The Concordia turned away from Earth and prepared for the journey home. They carried with them not conquered resources or subjugated people, but something the Empire had rarely sought before, new understanding. Earth was not a planet to be taken, but an ancient intelligence to be respected. As the ship accelerated away from the solar system, Karen thought about how one small warning from the Zilarians, initially ignored, had led to the biggest change in Imperial policy in thousands of years. Earth is a trap, they had said. But it wasn't a trap designed to harm. It was a test. A test the Empire had failed twice before finally learning to approach with wisdom rather than weapons. And somewhere behind them, the living planet continued, its ancient watch, now turned outward to the stars with new interest in the civilizations that dwelled among them.